Mein Name ist Andrea Tamasch, ich bin von der RANAS GmbH und wir sind im Bereich Behavior Change, Verhaltensänderung unterwegs. So now I can show you my screen. Okay, and with that I would like to switch to English because it's the language we use in projects. It's the language we use to develop our approach. And so my slides are all in English, and it makes my life a lot easier if I can also do the presentation in English. Also, my colleague Michael Lamsing from Interaction, who is here with me tonight. Hello, Michael. Maybe you want to say a few words about yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Andrea. I could do it in French, actually, if you want to stay in the national languages, but no. Yeah, I'm Michael Hansing. I'm coordinating the Department of Development Cooperation for Interaction. So Interaction is the umbrella organization of faith-based organizations in Switzerland. And we run the Stop Armut campaign. And last 2 years, actually, we worked together with RANAS to implement 3 case studies with members. So we co-funded in the past 3 projects in different countries, and we took the subjects of behavior change and worked with members to have more impact. So I will show tonight one example on the wash area, so water, sanitation, hygiene with Morija. I give it back to you, Andrea.
So as Michael already told you, we had projects together. So our background from RANAS is in health psychology, and we developed an approach to behavior change that is very specific, that can be implemented in projects. And we work as consultants with organizations like Interaction with People like Michael. So I will show you our approach, how we do that. And Michael will give you examples of how they implemented the approach in their project in Burkina Faso. First of all, I would like to start with why do we need behavior change? So what we often see in projects in developing countries is that even though hardware is provided, it is not well used. So in the upper picture, you see these were mosquito nets that have been used differently here, or the lower picture had been a solar cooker that certainly is not in use anymore. Another example shows a rainwater harvesting tank that if you look closely has a direct connection to the sanitation facility, and certainly also is not used for rainwater harvesting anymore. So we often come across these examples of misused hardware. Another one is that though campaigns are introduced, for example, on hand washing, and also the infrastructure is provided, there is a low compliance. So how can we motivate people to perform the hand washing behavior? Another example is even though facilities are there and people use them, apparently they are not kept clean. So now we have specific behavior of how can we motivate people to keep their sanitation facilities clean. Or another one is how can we motivate people to dispose their garbage properly. So what is behavior change? As you saw in the examples, it has something to do with people. So we put the person in the center in our approach. And we want to look into the head of the person. And I will show you in this presentation how we do that and what we can achieve with that. So what comes in usually is the promotion campaign you see on the left side. Then something happens in the head of the people, and the outcome is a target behavior. For easy understanding, I will use let's say, latrine use and non-use of latrines. So we can state that behavior change starts in the heads of the people. So what is there in the heads of the people? We at RANAS, we are psychologists, so we are trained to look into the heads of the people, and this is what interests us. So in psychology, we know that there are certain factors that drive people's behavior, and they're called behavioral factors. So if you think about yourself, what makes you doing something, it's not only about knowledge, but there's also other motivations. So we care about the mindset of the people, and we want to have a close look at the mindset of our target population. So we know we do a campaign, for example, the promotion of latrine use, and then something happens in the heads of people, and these factors then drive a target behavior, for example, the use of latrines. This is psychology. It has been tested in studies. So to us, it is common knowledge. What we do in our approach, in the RANAS approach, is more specifically, we look into the heads of people who show our desired behavior and those who do not show it. So we suspect that there are differences in those two types of people. The ones using a latrine, there may be other factors, and compared to the ones that do not use a latrine. This is our hypothesis, and this is how we develop the approach. So what do we need to do to assess our two groups, the latrine users and the non-users? So first of all, we have to identify the factors. So what's in people's heads, or what could be drivers of the behavior. And we want to know that from both our groups, from the ones who use a latrine and from the ones who don't. Because then we compare those two. We assess the factors, we measure them with questionnaires, and then we look at the differences. So what's really the difference between the users and the non-users? What's the difference in their heads? Then, based on this knowledge, we select specifically designed behavior change techniques. This is how they are called. And we have developed a catalog of behavior change techniques I will show you later, and where we can make a match between factors and behavior change techniques. It's all a bit abstract still at the moment, but I will go into the details a little bit later. And then, of course, we design a behavior change strategy that is then implemented in a project like Michael's in Burkina Faso. And then we also want to see whether we have been successful by monitoring the change in the behavior, that is latrine use in our case, in our example, and the behavioral factors. We also want to know whether we have actually changed the factors that we thought we would change. And this is then the effective behavior change that is the outcome. So this looks maybe a bit complicated, and I will go through all those steps in more detail and lead you through the 4 phases. So we have 4 phases of the RANAS behavior change approach. The whole approach has been developed based on psychological models of behavior change and has been studied very extensively in field studies and research studies. So let's go through the different phases of the RANAS approach. And maybe one more comment. So if you have the feeling you lost me, then please type your questions in the chat. And Mikkel, in the meantime, will be watching the chat so that we can, after each phase, maybe pick up some of your questions. So feel free to use the chat while I am talking.